Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to share their take on today's top stories, and we try to have just a little bit of fun as well. Let's take a look at our forecast, because we got some rain that could be pushing into the forecast area today. You can see that rain back off to the west of us now, and that will continue to advance over toward the east. We need it, folks. We have the clouds in place right now, and through the day it will appear that rain is coming our way. Likely not to see widespread showers until we get after 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon, so we're watching that. It's a front back off to the west of us that's going to continue to push through as we head into the weekend. Now there is a severe threat, but that's back off to the west of us. You can see over toward Mississippi and Alabama, where we have a level 1 threat for severe weather. It extends into our far northwestern counties. Dade, Walker County, isolated strong to severe thunderstorms are possible, but you can see by and large over our area, we're just looking at general threat for thunderstorms. That'll be here this afternoon. We'll hold on to the rain for tonight into tomorrow morning, but by tomorrow afternoon, that should begin to clear out of our forecast area. All right, the Trump administration is taking some of its most aggressive steps yet to shrink the U.S. Department of Education, moving key programs into other federal agencies as a test run for a permanent breakup. New numbers help to tell the story. 6 interagency agreements signed just this week. Nearly half of the department's workforce targeted for reduction, and more than $3 trillion spent since the department was created, while national test scores continue to fall. The Secretary of Education says these moves are all about proving to Congress that the system can work without a standalone agency.
What we want to do is to show Congress that this implementation works. It's a proof of concept, and to show and say, okay, this is how a permanent transfer to this department is going to work. We need their vote to do that, and we're not looking at this lightly.
All right, time for a deeper dive into this. We have Ashley Young, the Senior Education Analyst for Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to you. All right, when you look at these numbers, right? When you look at these total moves as moving programs into multiple agencies, is this a risk of creating more bureaucracy instead of less, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's certainly a concern. I think another concern is that we know a lot of these staff in the U.S. Department of Education have been laid off. And so there's not going to be a lot of transfer of institutional knowledge into specifically the Department of Labor to really ensure a streamlined transfer of services. So I think there will be more chaotic nature here of transferring of services, just because it's going to be in a completely new agency. Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the overall impact of Georgia's education system?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's important to put it into context. So while Georgia in 2024 spent about $32 billion to fund education, only 12% of that was actually funded from the federal government. But let's look a little bit closer at that. It's important to note that the Title I funding and the funding that is received from the federal government is going to support some of our most vulnerable and marginalized students, right? Our students who are attending schools that have high poverty rates, students whose English is their second language, rural students, supplemental instruction. And so all 100 and plus counties, school districts, in Georgia depend on some type of federal funding or Title I funding. So this will have an impact across the state, I would say.
So what happens to those students, say this takes place, right? You talk about billions of dollars here. Is there another source, another stream of funding coming in, or do those programs just go by the wayside?
I think that obviously it's a little bit hard to predict the future, but we do know what has historically happened. We see a lot of cuts for programs that aren't deemed as necessary. And so we know students who have the need for, again, supplemental instruction, after school programming, tutoring services for students, that these programs are inevitably going to be the first to be cut, unfortunately, as we're seeing some shifts in our state funding. We're seeing some property tax debates at the state level that are impacting state funding, which Again, local funding is about 48%, which is the highest portion of funding for states. And so this is going to really make sort of shifts all around that we're really going to have to make some changes up in the state and local level.
Yeah, if the Department of Education is shrunk down dramatically, who makes sure that schools follow those federal laws, like civil rights laws? Who makes sure that takes place?
Yeah, so that is one of the major concerns. I don't believe there's actual information of where sort of the Civil Rights Department or where those services will be transferred to just yet. But these are some of the major issues, and one of the main reasons why many school districts and vulnerable populations depend on the federal government for these services to address these sort of injustices that are happening on the local level. So obviously, I would imagine we'll be getting more information about that. Of course, this just addressed 6 of the agencies, but this will all remain to be seen, but it's going to be important for all of our Georgia students.
Do you think Georgia agencies are prepared to take on more responsibilities for oversight, compliance, or reporting? That's
a great question. It's something that is unclear now, but we're not sure. And what makes this even more, I think, critical is that nationally, right, we're talking a transfer of over $33 billion. So that comes with a lot of responsibility, right? A lot of functions, a lot of services. And so it is going to be a transition nonetheless, but no, we're unsure of how this could really impact sort of the capacity of our state Department of Education here in Georgia.
We understand that 20 states are suing to stop these moves. Do you think they have enough power to maybe slow it or block it?
Let's hope so. I mean, there's obviously going to be much litigation with these types of announcements and shifts, right? Because it is going to overwhelm, as you're mentioning or as you're alluding to, our state departments of education. And so having a better plan as this is happening will be helpful. Again, we know that to actually dissolve the U.S. Department of Education would need an act of Congress, but we are already seeing this unfold. So I'm not sure what role that will actually play in this transition.
Got it. Ashley Young, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care. Folks, don't go anywhere. You're watching The Take, and we're back right after this. Welcome back to the show. Some congressional Democrats say their lives are in danger after President Trump accused them of sedition and suggesting they be put to death. It comes after those lawmakers posted a video encouraging members of the military not to follow illegal orders. Let's bring in NBC's Alice Barr in Washington. And Alice, this seems to go beyond what we are used to in terms of political rhetoric. Talk to us about this video and what these Democrats released.
Yeah, so the Democrats put out this video essentially directed at members of the military and also members of the intelligence community. And worth noting that all 6 of these Democratic Congress members are veterans of either the military or the intelligence community. And they were telling all of these members that they do not have to follow laws that are against, or rather orders that are against the law. That's what they continue to repeat, orders that are against the law, against the Constitution. And they also accused the Trump administration of pitting armed military service members and members of the intelligence community against the American people. And didn't really get into detail about what they're talking about there, but there have been a number of circumstances where critics have talked about that, whether it's troops that are going into cities or, a number of issues like that. So President Trump clearly did not appreciate this video, and he responded quickly, calling it seditious behavior on behalf of the 6 congressional Democrats, and said that seditious behavior can be punishable by death. That did not go over well with many Democrats who are talking about this very heightened threat environment that we're in right now. And by Thursday evening, in fact, one Democrat in the video, Senator Alyssa Slotkin, said she had received close to 1,000 new threats and now has 24/7 security. Also worth noting, the president later reposted a comment from someone else who wrote, "Hang them, George Washington would." So it's certainly heightened rhetoric here. It's inflammatory rhetoric. The White House, though, is saying that the video itself, the message from the Democrats, is what is dangerous here, and that the chain of command is essential, and anything that encourages breaking the chain of command could in itself result in people dying, could result in chaos. So they're defending the president's response.
Alice, has there been other reaction to the video on Capitol Hill?
There's been a lot of reaction on Capitol Hill, starting with the top members of the Republican Party in the House. House Speaker Mike Johnson really defended President Trump and, said that this was totally out of line for the Democrats to make this video that in any way might suggest going against the orders of President Trump. He said going against lawful orders. Certainly the Democrats have been clear that they're not talking about lawful orders, that they're talking about anything that would break the law. And we did hear a slightly different message from the top Republican in the Senate, who said that while he thought the video the Democratic Congress members put out was ill-advised, he certainly did not agree with President Trump's response and anything that might touch on the idea of executions or of something like that being punishable by death. Certainly, Democrats on Capitol Hill are raising a lot of concern and alarm, calling this totally out of line, calling it something that threatens their colleagues' lives. And Republicans, by and large, really are defending the president, many saying that he wasn't actually threatening execution. He was more saying that he's accusing them of sedition, thinks they should be arrested, and by the way, the definition of sedition says you could be put to death, but that he's not putting the two together.
All right. I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about this as we go along. Alice, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight today. All right. Coming up on the show, a mother turned away from a hospital, forced to have her baby in a car. We're going to discuss this right after the break. Little warning here, this video is somewhat jarring here and it's gone viral. There's a woman in Crown Point, Indiana. She's in active labor, doubled over in pain outside the hospital, and then she was turned away by the staff telling her that she's not in labor as she and her husband were driving to another hospital for the woman to give birth, that she gave birth in the car. Both the mother and the newborn are reported to be in good health. The hospital where she was turned away from is now launching an internal investigation. It is a case that's raising serious questions about emergency care and maternal safety and how often black mothers are dismissed in critical moments. Let's dig a little bit deeper into this and what it means for patients and providers with OBGYN and nationally recognized leader in maternal health, Dr. Ebony January. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Dr. January, I have to ask you, what's your first reaction when you see this video?
Honestly, I was quite disgusted. I'm licensed in 16 states, and I will say I've seen some amazing labor and delivery nurses who act very, very quickly. She was in obvious labor. I tell patients when I send them home, if they think they're in labor and they're not in labor, I say, come back when you're one cheeking it. And that means if you can't sit down when you're contracting. And so she was in obvious pain. She's in obvious labor. And the fact that she just sat there and was ignored, it was quite disgusting to me.
Is it up to the staff to make that call, or would it be a physician that would actually make that call whether or not she's in labor or not?
So this is how things go. So when you come into our triage, which is essentially our obstetric ER, we evaluate you, we'll ask you questions, they'll admit you, but if someone is in obvious labor, the first thing that we do is we get help. We get another nurse or a doctor or whomever so that while we're admitting the patient, we can put them on the monitor, assess the baby's heart rate, assess contractions, and then we'll consent her to check her cervix. Once we've checked the cervix, if she's 1-2 centimeters dilated but contracting in obvious pain, we give her some time. 2 hours, sometimes more, depending on how painful the patient or how much pain the patient appears to be in. And then we come back and we recheck the patient's cervix. In many cases, the cervix has not changed, right? But in this particular case, when she is in this much obvious pain, you can admit her for observation, and more than likely, and I've done this hundreds of times, is that they will eventually go into labor, and it's glad that we don't necessarily send them home just because the book says to recheck their cervix in 2 hours doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it's going to always be. So they should have rechecked her. They should have made sure that she wasn't in active labor, and it's obvious that she was. If she delivered so quickly after, she was in active labor.
Is there a federal law regarding this at all? And if it is, what does it say here?
So essentially, by law, women, if they're in labor, they have the right to be examined immediately. This is the EMTALA law. So hospitals must evaluate any pregnant woman who arrives in labor immediately, no delays, no excuses.
Wow. Is this happening more often than what we think?
And, you know, as I stated before, I'm licensed in 16 states, which means I've seen a lot. Black, white, Hispanic, Indian, Amish women. I've seen it all. I don't see this happen a lot. But from what I'm hearing, when people DM me, because I'm very active on social media and I do a lot of education, I have a lot of women who come to me and say that this is happening, that I was ignored, that they made me wait, or they didn't hear my actual issues, my complaints and things of that nature. So it is happening. But the great thing is now we have awareness. I'll tell you, in this particular case where you have the phone, they're recording, whoever was recording, I believe the mom, she should have grabbed the patient's phone and called for a supervisor, a nurse manager, the nurse, the floor manager, the nurse supervisor, and then you can call for a patient advocate. You can actually call for this, and many times these numbers are posted throughout the hospital, and if they aren't, then hospitals need to start posting these numbers.
As we said earlier, the hospital is launching an internal investigation, but is that going to be enough?
I don't think it's enough, right? I think awareness is one thing and investigation is another thing, but now we need training. We're in a day and age, and now one of the trainings that I administer is implicit bias training, culturally competent care training. So I partner with hospitals and community-based organizations in order to do that. And also insurance carriers, they need to train and they need to evaluate often. It's one thing, sure, we have what we call continued medical education, where we have to get training on implicit bias and other things of that nature, but who is evaluating us? Who is making sure that we're actually implementing these things? A one-time training is not enough. We have to take action. We have to evaluate. The administrators and the leaders need to see what is actually happening.
Yeah. Dr. Ebony January, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Plenty more stories for you coming up, folks. This is The Take, and we're back right after this. All right, welcome back to the show. Right now, look at the downtown connector, and traffic seems to be moving pretty good, swimmingly even, right? Got some sun to block your eyes a little bit there. So hopefully you got your shades with you, folks. But we're now looking at less than a week from Thanksgiving. Holiday travel will be amping up today. As we do every Friday, we bring in GDOT spokesperson and friend of the show, Natalie Dale. Hey, Natalie, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, when you look at the numbers for this Thanksgiving week, right, how busy are we talking about on Georgia roads compared to what would be a normal Thanksgiving year?
Well, I think we were all ready to jump in our cars. We didn't know if the airlines were going to get it together. We didn't know if the government was going to get it together to get all the planes. So this is a time of the season where we see more cars on our road necessarily than those who are taking flights elsewhere. Those little trips to and from grandma's house that's just around the corner. We see a lot of surface street congestion. But first of all, you need to get where you're going. So we're going to see everyone starting to head out about Wednesday afternoon to get where they're going. And then they come back around the same time, that afternoon slot on Saturday and Sunday following Thanksgiving. So you want to avoid those on our major interstates, arterials. It's the in-between that's going to get you, because that's where you have some sporadic trips where people are going to and from different Thanksgiving, Friendsgivings events. And that means we have more congestion on our surface streets than we would in a typical holiday.
So we say it starts today, right? So is it amping up each day from starting today? People will be traveling over the weekend.
Well, not necessarily starting today. Yeah, okay. Not necessarily starting today. Okay. We really do see people try to get that Monday, Tuesday, and half a day Wednesday in as far as work goes. And then they head out. It's about that half day slot. So about noon, 1 to 3 on Wednesday before Thanksgiving is when you start to see everyone sort of hit the road. Then you have that little break and everyone starts to come back, trickle back in over the weekend.
Will you guys still be active on the roads as far as work zones, or are you going to suspend that for the week?
We, of course, try to get that work out of the way to give you just a little reprieve, get the lanes open that we can. Now, we also remind motorists that if there is a permanent lane closure, I always use a bridge as an example. We can't open a bridge that's not ready. So if a lane can be opened, it will be opened, but you still want to keep your eyes out for emergency road work or long-term road work where it's just not safe to open a lane. But for the most part, we try to get out of your way so you can get where you're going safely.
Are you guys planning for a record volume this year?
Well, that remains to be seen. We look year over year at these trends, and Thanksgiving tends to be pretty standard. But again, there's that big question mark about how many people would have flown that chose to forego that process because we weren't sure if that was going to get back on track and aren't planning to drive. So we'll be looking at the numbers. We'll report them back to you after we see them. It'll be interesting to see how that dynamic impacted what's already a very heavy road traffic holiday.
Yeah. How does weather change the way you guys manage the system?
Well, we're looking at having some rain. You're the weatherman, you know. You let us know. So when we have things like rain, and we have, especially with all the leaves are falling in Georgia, we get all that foliage down. Of course, unfortunately, we get a lot of trash into the system at times like these. If we do have a rainy week, that can really impact the roadways with things like flooding, standing water. So we keep an eye on that. Luckily, we're trending warm right now, so no threats of any more ice or snow. You know, we had a snowflake last week, and so that, you know, we take a step back, but we quickly after Thanksgiving, when we have a warm scenario like this, turn our focus quickly to what the winter will look like and what that situation looks for upcoming road trips for the rest of the holiday season. So crews are always on call. Should it be rain? Should it be ice? Should it be snow? Should it be emergency road work? Crews are always on call. We do not take off the way that other people can because we're always working on the roads. People are always traveling on our roads. So rest assured that if there is a problem caused by weather or by the infrastructure, our crews will be dispatched quickly to that location.
Well, we can both take a sigh of relief. No snow or ice expected in this year's forecast for Thanksgiving, so that's good.
I'll take the warmth. I'll take the warmth.
Absolutely. Natalie, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
All right. When we come back, folks, we're going to check in with Zach Merchant. He's going to tell us the latest, what's coming up on the Georgia vote. Plus, we will talk about the importance of being an organ donor. All that's coming up right after the break. Stay right there. Well, while there's 34 shopping days left until Christmas, that's it, 34? Uh-oh. And 41 until the new year, there's also 178 days until Georgia's statewide primary, and the electoral calendar just never stops. You know, it just keeps going. That's why we bring in this guy. Each Friday, we bring in Zach Merchant, co-host of the Georgia Vote. He has all the answers politically, folks. That's why we bring him in. He's a smart guy. All right, it's been a week since the shutdown, as we know, and you've talked to the Democratic Party chair of Georgia, and what are they talking about?
Well, you know, there's another date, another number. You said there's 30-something days until Christmas. Yeah. That's a big number to keep track of. Another number is 43. 43-day-long government shutdown that we're just on the back end of. It's been about a week since that shutdown wrapped up. Record-setting, longest in American history. We talked with Charlie Bailey. He's the chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia throughout the shutdown. This was the first time we sat down with him after the shutdown. Got about a week of hindsight. And we asked him, was it worth it? You know, Democrats, throughout the shutdown, they really made this issue of Affordable Care Act subsidies and extending them. They're currently set to expire at the end of the year if they're not adjusted. Democrats made extending those ACA subsidies their core issue throughout the shutdown. But then this group of 8 breakaway moderate Democrats in the Senate cut a deal with Republicans that opened the door, we know this story, to reopen the government. That deal did not include a guarantee that those subsidies would be extended. I asked Charlie Bailey about it. I said, hey, after all this, you look back on it, was it worth it? In his view, he said, yes. He said, I think, I want to paraphrase, but he said, if it wasn't for Democrats to stand up and make this fight, nobody else was going to. Republicans would push back on that, but that was Bailey's kind of hindsight view on this.
Wow. All right, so in 2026, we got some high-profile elections coming up. What are the Democrats saying or thinking about those elections?
Well, you know, you use this gesture a little bit. They have to get their hands around a really big primary field. There's 6 or 7 major, serious Democratic contenders just in the gubernatorial primary and the governor's race. A big field of contenders. On one hand, you know, for voters, it's a big win because you're going to have a lot of choices, right? For candidates, probably a win too. Whoever emerges, they're going to be sharper, they're going to be more battle tested. But it can also be a situation where you have people inside the party butting heads a little bit because they're trying to win that primary race. I asked Charlie Bailey, you know, how do you manage that? And what do you expect the winning candidates to have as their priorities, their plans, their ideas? And the idea that kept coming up again and again and again was this focus on affordability. Remember, we talked about the PSC race, the Public Service Commission race. We've had this conversation at this desk. Those two Democrats who ran in the PSC race, they really tried to tack as close as possible to the issue of affordability. They proved a winner. They won by something like 20 plus points, flipped 2 incumbent seats. Democrats, according to Charlie Bailey, he expects them to stick with that message. And truthfully, Republicans are probably going to lean into the affordability message as well. And it's a bit of a shift from, if you remember where the Democratic Party messaging was 4 or 5 years ago. In 2020, there was a much greater focus on social issues, issues of identity, race, sexual orientation. And we asked Bailey, I said, this seems like a different kind of messaging. And he said, there's no, he used the phrase, there's no bat signal that goes out and everybody kind of starts singing for a different hymnal. And he said those issues are still important. But affordability is where they're putting their focus.
I got about 30 seconds left. How much will AI play a role in 2026?
Ask me this question in a week, and I bet the answer is even more than my answer would be today. It continues to grow, continues to evolve. We reported on this Representative Mike Collins' campaign. He had that AI and a deep fake image of Senator John Ossoff come out. You can expect that that's likely not going to be the last. Particularly, we talk about this primary dynamic, and this is a good place to end, when primaries start to heat up and they get more competitive, and it stops being, hey, let me introduce you to myself as a candidate, and more, let me tell you why my opponent is wrong for you and I'm the right person for you. Those tensions ratchet up, the friction ratchets up, and you may see those AI videos start to come out too.
You know who'll be all over it? Zach Merchant.
But not with AI. No deep fake here.
He's real. He's real. All right, you can catch the Georgia Vote with Zach Merchant and Faith Jesse Sunday morning at 11 o'clock right here on 11Alive Plus. Zach, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. All right, here is a live look over toward Bobby Dodd Stadium, where Georgia Tech is set to take on Pittsburgh this weekend. Kickoff is set for 7 p.m. Saturday from the Flats. But before that happens, fans will be witness to a very special moment. The Shelton family is made up of 4 Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and all of them have undergone multiple kidney transplants within their household, each of them choosing to give the gift of life. Their story serves as a powerful call for Georgians to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors, as more than 3,000 people in the state are currently waiting on the waiting list for the life-saving transplant. Bob and Selena Shelton joins us now. And share their story of helping to spread this life-saving message. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Rob, take us back to your own diagnosis when you first realized kidney disease would shape so much of your life and your family's life.
In 2000, I was diagnosed with a kidney disease in a routine physical, and 10 years later was put on dialysis, and in 2011, my sister gave me the gift of life with a kidney transplant, and so that was a big moment for us and a big eye opener for the importance of transplant.
Yeah, a big moment. Selena, you lived through Bob's transplant early in your marriage. How was the first years of all that, dealing with a young family and dealing with this situation so big?
Scary, to be honest. But Emily, Rob's sister, chose to make that beautiful gift to him, and I cannot thank her more. She will forever be my hero.
Yeah. When your children were diagnosed with the same disease, what went through your mind at that particular point as parents?
That I only had 2 kidneys, and how was I going to give both of them away? Really, no, but very early on, we monitored our children for kidney disease, knowing that it runs in families. And I have to give a really big shout out to the nephrology group at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. They're like an extended family to us now, every single person there. In their early teens, they were diagnosed with the same disease that their dad has, a disease that progresses differently for different people. For Rob, it was a disease that he needed a transplant at 35. For my youngest, Sydney, I'm hopeful, crossing my fingers, she will never need one. But for my oldest, Dane, she needed one in her junior year at Georgia Tech. And from the moment that I discovered that she needed a transplant, I was determined to be her donor, whether that be a match, which Thankfully, I was a direct match for her, but I was also willing to participate in any kidney swap that can happen. I don't know if you know that that's a possibility, but it is a great thing that the organization has come up with, where you, if you wanted to donate to somebody, but you're not a match, but I want to donate to my child and they're not a match, you can swap and both benefit somebody.
Yeah. Rob, your family bleeds gold and white. What does that mean to be honored? Or what does it mean to be honored by Georgia Tech this weekend at the game?
Well, it's going to be a big, as you know, it's going to be a big weekend. We're going to be in a sold-out Bobby Dodd Stadium, and we get the opportunity to, as a part of LifeLink of Georgia's partnership with Georgia Tech, go out on the field at the Tech Pitt game and really emphasize the mission to educate people around organ donation and show them that both in living donation, we have Selena here perfectly healthy after donating a kidney, and also in legacy donation, how important that is. And again, to be able to do that with, 2 graduates, our oldest graduated in August and our youngest will be graduating in May. So all of us to be out there on the field to kind of tie up what is our biggest passion, along with being great fans of the Yellow Jackets, will be a great experience.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us this morning, and thank you for sharing your story. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea.
For having us.
And you guys have a great time at the game as well. All right.
Go Jackets.
Yeah, go Jackets.
Absolutely. All right. Stay with us, folks. When we return, we're going to talk to CNN's Maribel Aber. She's right after the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. A major White House proposal overseas is already shaking global markets. CNN's Caroline Woods and from Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning to you.
Hey there. Good morning, Chesley. Happy Friday. And yes, let's start with stocks because the opening bell just rang about 12 minutes ago. We're watching the major averages, and we're also watching oil and energy stocks today because the Trump administration's new push for a Russia-Ukraine peace deal is moving oil prices this morning. Brent crude futures slipped a little bit more than 1.5% to just above $62 a barrel earlier. And West Texas Intermediate futures dipped about 2% as well. They're trading below $58 a barrel. The widely reported U.S. plan proposes that Ukraine cede 3 major regions to Russia, limit its armed forces, and pledge never to join NATO. Analysts are doubtful that Ukraine will actually approve it. So keeping our eye on that this morning. Also taking a look at the major averages. We're actually opening with green on the screen, similar to yesterday, although hopefully we can actually hold on to those gains because we saw a big reversal yesterday. I will note, though, that NVIDIA has turned lower once again. It's down about 1% right now, and that has the ability to move the market. So we're keeping an eye on that as well.
All right, you got big changes at Verizon. Thousands handed pink slips.
Yeah, not good news for Verizon. It's laying off more than 13,000 employees starting this week. The Wall Street Journal was actually the first to report on these job cuts, announced in a memo by CEO Dan Schulman. He told staffers the move was designed to, quote, reorient the company around customer service. The carrier has already started notifying these workers. It's a process that's expected to take a few weeks. It's also investing $20 million into a career transition fund for those affected. And Chesley, I saw the memo, and it looks like that career transition fund is also helping workers upskill or reskill themselves because of, you guessed it, AI.
Yeah, man. You know, my mother just got one of these real IDs, right? She'll be traveling for the holidays. But for those folks that don't have that real ID, it's going to cost them, right?
Yeah, $18. And your mother must have been lucky with getting an appointment. Mine's still not until next month, and I applied for it months ago. Air travelers without a real ID, though, or valid passport may soon have to shell out $18 to get through airport screening. Federal transportation officials say the non-refundable fee goes toward the cost of using alternative verification methods. The real ID requirement for driver's licenses went into effect in May. However, a number of Americans still don't have one or a passport. It wasn't made clear if the fee will start during next week's Thanksgiving travel rush. TSA will also accept other forms of ID, though, like Homeland Security's global entry, a permanent resident card, a tribal nation's ID, or foreign issued passport. A full list is available on the TSA's website. I'll be traveling on Thanksgiving, and I will be bringing my passport because I don't have my real ID.
Yeah. Save yourself on that fee. I understand. So Monster is launching a new energy drink, but it's aimed at women. It seems like social media is divided on this one. What's the brand trying to do?
Yeah. Definitely mixed here. Monster Energy is set to release this new female-focused brand, and early reaction from women, not necessarily positive. The new line is called Flirt, spelled F-L-R-T. It offers sugar-free drinks and comes in flavors like Strawberry Fling, Berry Tempting, and Sunset Squeeze. Some reviews on social media have been harsh, with one woman calling the brand, quote, really condescending. Another suggests that energy drinks have always been for the girls. The company says the drinks contain collagen to support healthy skin, hair, and immune systems. Describes the drinks as being, quote, as vibrant, fearless, and fun as the women who drink it. Monster Energy did not respond when asked about the social media comments this week, but I've never had Monster Energy drinks. I think I'll just stick with my matcha and my fountain Diet Cokes for fuel.
Yeah, I know. A lot of sugar in that. All right, Caroline. Hey, sorry about last night. The Bills taking it on the chin, but better luck next Sunday, right?
Let's go, Buffalo. Go Bills.
All right, take care. All right, this holiday is starting to creep up on you a little bit, starting to feel some of that stress, right, hitting the back of your neck. But we'll discuss some tips of how to get through it coming up. Don't go anywhere. This time of year, often called the most wonderful, but for many people, it's also one of the most stressful and lonely. The American Psychological Association says that nearly 9 in 10 U.S. adults feel at least some holiday stress, from money to travel and just trying to keep up with the season. Added to this, a U.S. Surgeon General advisory showing 1 in 3 adults feel more lonely during this time of year, even when they're surrounded by family and friends. And nearly 6 in 10 Americans, according to the National Retail Federation, say the biggest weight on them is their finances, from buying gifts to that holiday travel cost. Let's find out more about this and how to snap these holiday blues with Courtney Schauder. She is with United Healthcare. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. Courtney, when you look at the numbers, like 88% of adults feeling stressed out, what stands out most about what people are experiencing this time of year?
Yeah, what people are experiencing are some of those challenges, and, people do feel lonely. It's very important to reach out to those who you think may be feeling lonely, and even a small gesture or a quick call or a handwritten note or a visit to a local community center can go a long way to make those feel seen and valued. So we definitely want to be thinking about that during this season.
Yeah, we often call this the most wonderful time of the year, right? And many people are just stressed out. What's one of the biggest health impacts from people being stressed out?
Yeah, so definitely stress can affect our sleep. It can affect our appetite, our nutrition. It really affects both mental and physical health. So in that sense, holidays are a really great time to slow down and just reconnect, and just think about those social ties, because feeling moments of connection with others can be really powerful gifts, and it can really uplift our spirits and our physical and mental health too.
What would you say is the most this common mistake when people try to push through the season instead of coping with what they're dealing with?
Yeah, well, sometimes that can lead to burnout, if we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and really don't kind of set those intentions to balance taking care of ourselves, but also giving to others during that season. So it's important to kind of think through the season, maybe think through an action plan. What are the things you need to accomplish? What are the kind of the wants versus the needs of the season?
So how do you set those boundaries during the holidays, and what does that look like in a healthy way?
Yeah, so, I would start with just some intentional conversations. So whether that means you're checking in with family about schedule or plan, or you're checking in with people about, what are they up to? How are they feeling? Anytime you can really, have that genuine connection with others, it's going to help you feel more supported, and then also help others. And I would also go back to some of those traditions. What about the season makes it feel special for you? Are there, certain activities you always go to, whether that's in your community, certain volunteer events? Is it things you do at home, like decorating or baking? Just traditions. Those rituals can really help us feel grounded and supported during this season. And even thinking about like moving with others, going for walks, or if there's local 5Ks that run, in your community, moving can be a fantastic way to strengthen your connection and bond with other people, just while giving you time to talk and move your body.
Would that be your advice as people head into these next few weeks?
Yes, absolutely. I really do think sticking with your usual routine is important, right? So we know there's a lot more going on. There can be some stress, but if you've got those routines of making sure you're grocery shopping, having some balanced meals in your home, going for your morning walks, or if you like to do certain exercise routines, or even if you're just getting outside, those are important. They help you stay kind of feeling structured, and then that kind of balances your stress throughout your week as well.
Yeah. All right. So if somebody's watching us right now and they're feeling overwhelmed, all up in their shoulders like me, right? What's the first step, right, to get started on changing things for this holiday season?
Sure. Well, I mean, when it comes to setting goals, I always think about we don't want to set ourselves up for failure. So it can just be one very small goal and, making it actionable, making it something that you can check back in on. So that might be saying a specific amount of times you want to do something, or, committing to a certain amount of minutes of reading every day, or whatever it is that you recognize that you want to do that would also be beneficial for you. Just trying to commit to that and sharing your goals with others so that they can keep you accountable and maybe even join in, so it doesn't feel like an extraordinary effort. It feels like something that's enjoyable.
All right, I got 30 seconds left. Courtney, now tell me, what am I supposed to say to my son who I can't find anything for, and I feel bad about that gift I didn't get him? What should I tell him?
Oh gosh, well, you know what? I think, you can just always say you try your best, but remember too, just moments with others and connection can go farther. Sometimes even just a lovely handwritten note to somebody that you want to recognize during this holiday season can go farther than a gift. So don't discount those types of things. And just remember, there are lots of tools to help manage stress. So if you do have a health insurer, there's often some great virtual tools that can help you manage stress, such as Calm Health, just all these wonderful apps that can bring meditation and focus and grounding and breath work into the picture. Those are really important stress management tools. So don't discount some of the things you might have access to, even on your phone, that you might have forgotten about.
Yeah. Dear son, I'm already starting, Courtney. Dear son.
There you go.
Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great one.
Take care. Another look at your forecast, plus my final take when we come back, folks. Don't go anywhere. All right, we are looking at some rain pushing in. By the time we get to the afternoon, there could be a rumble of thunder too as well. Can't rule that out, but we're not anticipating any severe weather. 40% chance for those scattered showers to push in. Look at the temperature, 77 degrees for a high today. If we hit that, we'll tie a record. We'll see. Tomorrow, 77 is also the record, but I think we'll fall just a little bit short as a front will be moving through the area. We'll get some morning showers. By the afternoon, we'll clear it out, get the sunshine back. Full sunshine comes back to us on Sunday, looking at 71 degrees, so a little bit cooler behind that front. We'll stay right near that 70-degree mark all the way up to Tuesday. That's where another front will come through, bring some more showers, a good 40% chance late Tuesday going into Wednesday, but then we'll cool down behind that. Thanksgiving Eve on Wednesday, we're looking at 68 for the high temperature. Thanksgiving Day, we'll have the sunshine back and temperatures will be around 57 degrees, so cold turkey right there. All right, before we go, folks, I want to give you my final take. The U.S. Mint may have stopped producing pennies, adding a little bit to their value, but who knew dimes were worth at least $1 million or more? Check your loose change. America's smallest coin could be worth way more than the face value. Here's what you need to look out for, all right? Worth more is the 1894 S dime, barber dime. There was only 24 of them made. There's only 9 accounted for, so you can get about $1 million for that dime today at auction. Also, how about the pre-1965 Roosevelt dime? It contains 90% silver composition, so that's worth a lot of money. And then lastly, your common dimes, your latest dimes, if they have a mistake on them, like next to the date, it doesn't have an S mark, can go for some big bucks. I mean, it's holiday season. Who couldn't use some extra money? It only costs you a dime. Have a great day, folks. We'll talk to you later.